Hey, everybody, welcome back to Rams Brothers the Pod. I'm your host, Dean, and I'm joined by the other host of this show, Nick. And Nick, it's been a long month. I think we're excited to be in the month of December. How are you?
Good, doing good, man.
Yeah.
Definitely was a horrible month to be a Rams fan, November. If you equated your emotions to how they do on the field, then I'm sorry that you had such a bad month.
Well, I think a lot of people do. I certainly do. I carry it over into the whole week. And I
That's
don't,
the
I
worst
don't
thing to
want
do.
to. Yeah, I don't want to, of course, but the month that they had, I feel like for whatever reason, it carried on. You wore it on your sleeve, and you just kind of had to wear it, right? It's like that Packers game when the line continuously moved in favor of the Rams. You thought, eventually all the public money coming in on the Packers, they're coming off of a bye. Maybe it's a perfect opportunity for them to break the door down. And Nick, we had a couple of moments where we celebrated in that game. Outside of that, pain.
I think we had two moments, really only two.
Yeah, the Cooper Kupp touchdown, the Cooper Kupp pass that was a touchdown to Van
That was
Jefferson,
ultimately ruled not a touchdown.
which was close, extremely close, and then obviously the Van Jefferson long touchdown early on in the game when it was 10-0. I mean, the Odell
No,
Beckham
not even
touchdown.
that.
Well,
I was
that
talking
was
about
never
the
in.
special teams fumble.
That too.
Yeah, because those are the only points where I felt like we were still in this game. Like the Odell first touchdown as a Ram, not even celebrated. Like it felt like it was in garbage time. I mean, it wasn't, but there was no way that they were ever going to come back, just based on their identity and how they've been playing from behind and just how bad they've been looking. I just didn't see it happening. So like it was pretty much from start to finish. It was horrible.
Yeah, well, the Odell touchdown made it what, a 10-point game, 11-point game, and then how many opportunities did they have in that fourth quarter to come back and do something? Right, I think in that fourth quarter, 20 plays, 74 yards, 3.7 yards per play, 3 points total. And the defense essentially allowed the same thing on the other side of the ball. So plenty of opportunities for them to be able to trickle in something intricate in the fourth quarter. But obviously their play calls, it feels like they have a blind trust to their quarterback right now. Obviously the whole offense is catered around Matthew Stafford and his ability to work without anything else happening around him. Right, his ability to work in shotgun, his ability to dissect things at the line of scrimmage, pre and post snap, his ability to dissect coverage. It's a blind trust right now. And obviously, when you're playing from behind, you can't necessarily have a productive run game in the fourth quarter unless you're just so perfectly balanced in terms of run pass ratio. Usually that doesn't happen. When you're coming from behind, you're still passing. But I mean, just the way that they're controlling the clock, the way that they're trying to win through the air, I think a part of their identity, Nick, that you talked about is what makes it so frustrating.
Yeah, it's just a lot of things. Like one specific thing about the McVay regime, everybody loves to talk about Boy Genius and the what is it, 47-0 at halftime, 43-0
I don't care anymore.
When leading at halftime. Is that the stat?
Yeah, it's something like that. But
something like that.
Like
his career isn't that long. I think he only has like 58 wins total, right? So it's like the it's just so crazy because you look at that stat and then you look at how many wins he has where he wasn't trailing, like when they weren't leading, and it's just abysmal because it's like, yeah, you're good when all things are going your way, but you can't battle adversity. It's something that these teams seem to, this time every year, besides 2018, like last 3 years, it's like they hit this wall mid-season. Everyone's figured them out. Then they got a couple more tricks up their sleeve, but it doesn't seem like it's enough. And all the talent in the world can't really do anything if you're giving the other team, like, you're spotting them 6 points like again and again and again.
Well, Nick, I think the reason why you called this out. I mean, you called it out as soon as the Matthew Stafford trade was made. So again, honestly, Rams fans, if you have an opportunity, apologize to Nick, especially at this point of the season. If it turns around, you can go against them again. Do whatever you got to do. But for right now, apologize to the kid. Matthew Stafford.
All right. Well, first of all, okay, not a kid.
Go ahead,
Second of all, I don't really give a crap if you apologize to me or not. The fact of the matter is, I've just read the entire situation correct, and you want to throw stats in my face and say that Matthew Stafford is just like an incredible quarterback. I just doesn't pass the eye test to me. He never really has, and It sucks. It sucks that he's on our team. And I'm sorry, Dean was just saying before this, he was like, I can't do it, man. I can't do a whole nother episode where you're just like, crapping on this guy. And it's just, I don't know. It's, you don't come to LA as this savior guy and then expect not to be criticized when you're not winning.
Okay. Fair. Two things. I didn't mean to call you a kid, more of a phrase. Just apologize to the person, the man. Schematically, though, I feel like everything that they've built, everything in the offseason, personnel, offseason additions, Deshaun Jackson, Tutu Atwell, not drafting interior offensive linemen, they've all been built around this explosive play identity and this offense. And you talked about an inability to adjust. We saw the McVay statistics kind of like cycle around social media so far this week, how in the back half of seasons, he just historically drops his production, his offenses just drop off of a cliff, right? So when you put all that investment into being an explosive play offense in the offseason, right, and then you can't adjust 8, 9, 10 weeks into the season and become a run first team, a team that can kind of grind you down on the line of scrimmage and move the line of scrimmage. When you can't adjust that, you don't have the personnel to do that because you invested everything, all of your resources into becoming this one-trick pony, this explosive play offense. That's when you get yourself in trouble. So like you said, it's an ability he has to show the ability to adjust, because when he's up, when they're winning at halftime, when everything's going well, everything's fine. But when he gets himself in trouble, it's when, that golden boy, boy wonder, whatever terminology you want to use for Sean McVay, starts to go away a little bit. And it looks like it's starting to rear its ugly head a little bit now. Like, I feel like it's going away a little bit. And, when you lose, the ugliness kind of comes out in all directions. It comes out in our podcast, it comes out in our relationship, right? We have all these different things when you lose. If everything was going well and they were winning, nobody would be questioning Sean McVay schematically. Nobody would be questioning his play calling. But because things are going poorly right now, everything is in question, right? I mean, you see Raheem Morris's job on the line. Sean McVay's
can kind of feel,
although it's not true, right? All those things are not true. You're hearing those things on social media.
You can feel how hot the lights are starting to hit this Rams team.
Yeah.
Because they want to be in the lights. They want to be flashy. They want to be the stars. They want to have an all-star in defense at every position and offense, and everybody's, everyone's billed as a top actor. And particularly McVay, billed right in the middle of this Rams team of when they have the promo and everything. And it's just, the lights are on, and it doesn't seem like anybody's home upstairs. And it's just, it's sad to see a team with all these talented people just not live up to the LA standards of sports, which is you got to win. And, I look at their records against winning teams. They're 1-4. It's emblematic to how Stafford has been throughout his entire season.
His career, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It's just all in all, it's not a lot of fun. I notice how I'm wearing a Rams Brothers hat and not any Rams gear. The shirt underneath is a Community Greendale college shirt. It's not, but it's not Rams. Yeah, it just matches the hat. It's just, yeah.
So
and also, I wanted to apologize to everybody because we are, we missed 2 episodes. We missed the Tuesday episode, we missed the Thursday episode. Dean and I just been really busy with work, and that's on us. And I feel like right now we haven't even gotten into any of like the actual script yet, and we're just kind of like letting everything out in almost a therapeutic kind of way. Like I'm on the session with my therapist right now, just going on and on about how much this team aggravates me and you.
Yeah, well, I'm surely aggravating you. You aggravate me. I would be the worst.
There were like 2 takes ever. There were 2 takes before this where I was, we couldn't get on the same page, and we didn't even get to start this episode. It's just because we were just so aggravated. So this is take 3 where we're a little mellowed out.
I don't even know if it's necessarily the fact that we're not on the same page in specific takes, right? Like we could sit here and say, McVay sucks, Stafford sucks. There's an issue with this, and
which I don't think any of those are particularly true.
That's the problem. That was my only thing, and that was, I think, our major disagreement was like they started off a 7-1 team. They've lost 3 in a row, right? They could then become 8-4, and then if they beat Arizona 9-4, and then all of a sudden all the stuff that we're talking about is no longer there. Right. So I think that's the thing. Like with all of these different things that are kind of swirling around right now, if you can figure out a way just to kind of piece together the offense, they're going to be far away from sucking in a world where they're not the team that they want to be. So I just think there's
No, I mean, you go on like a 3-0 tear here. You start to beat some really good teams. You got a lot of fire on your ass. Fate this Jacksonville team, and you win hot like this week, and then you go in Arizona and you win there. It's a completely different season.
Totally agree. Totally
it's
agree.
just it's from what we've seen. Stafford looks like he's injured, just straight up. I know like the Rams don't have a good history under McVay of being upfront about injuries. Whole Gurley throughout the playoffs in 2018, and then Gurley the following season, and then only for him to get cut. Like it's pretty emblematic if you want to think about how they're dealing. Like you could think about that's how they're dealing with the Stafford issue, and it's crazy because I really don't recall McVay ever truly going to bat for Goff in his, like, obviously in the beginning when he was a new head coach, he wasn't going to say anything egregious either way. He was very a politician. But now, I mean, Stafford is like his guy. He went out and got him. This was his decision. He in these pressers, I'm sure that you watch and other Rams fans watch, he is going to bat for this guy. Like we trust him like wholeheartedly. He is 100% our guy. He's making throws that I know he'll make next week and kind of stuff of that nature. And he's missing wide open guys. That first fumble, you have to come down with that ball. You have to be aware of the pressure. And it was one of the things he was marketed as to us as Rams fans, that he was going to be able to do stuff like that. So I just want a little consistency and, a little like, hey, like you're not doing a good job. You need to step up, which is what we saw from him last year. So,
right. Well, that's the point. It's like the bill that was sold to us was that they're going to be this incredible team, that Stafford was going to come in, fix every single problem offensively that they've ever had, and the Rams are going to ride off into the Super Bowl, into the sunset. That's completely untrue. And I think the people that were able to call that out initially, you, Cowherd, a couple of others, were the ones that were kind of living in the real world, where others saw the opportunity where you can kind of come in, you could operate out of 11 personnel strictly. You could mix in a couple of different combinations, a couple of different sets, and you're still going to be the explosive play offense that you originally marketed to be. But I don't think that in recent weeks, right, you deal with some interior pressure and inability to run the ball. You have some injuries to Henderson. You're going to change some things around there. I think schematically, they have a really solid opportunity to open things back up. But the original bill that was sold to us, right, I think is unfair from the groundwork of this team is going to eventually evolve into a Super Bowl team, because they just aren't there yet, right? And I think you shouldn't have set the expectation for yourself. You kind of put yourself, and like you said, they put themselves in this position. They put themselves in the position with injury. They put themselves in the position with star power, right? So now you've essentially built your own target on your own back. Right. So that's why it's just making it increasingly difficult. Teams like San Francisco, teams like Green Bay, games in prime time, like you want to get up and beat a team that has a target on their back because they're being advertised as a Super Bowl team that has all the star power. I mean, it's really basic stuff. Right. So, I mean, they're putting themselves in this position. I think secondly, and most importantly with Stafford, you can't turn the ball over. Like, I just think he's in a position where they're so heavily focused on the passing game. And Aaron Rodgers, I think, is potentially the second best quarterback in the history of football. But he's thrown 3 pick sixes in his entire career. Like, you can't.
Is that a true fact?
It's a true fact. I want to be.
That is amazing.
Of course, it's a true fact. I want to be against you as frequently as I possibly can, because while I feel like the truth behind this team sucks still lies there a little bit, but of course I still want to see the puzzle kind of come together. So I have this weird blind optimism Ram fandom that I think is clouding my judgment, and you do a much better job of just kind of seeing through the bullshit.
Well, the only time what people said when we had Goff and then to justify the trade away was we were good in spite of him, right? Like we had Todd Gurley, CJ Anderson came in. We had a lot of talent. Regardless of his buffoonery, our defense was great, and we were able to win games in other ways. And I just don't trust this team to win in spite of Stafford, because let's face it, 3 games in a row now, you are giving the team. I mean, he gave Green Bay 10 points. He gave Tennessee 14. And then whoever was in between, I forget. I'm sorry, but
Dude, all you need
San
to know
Francisco. He
all
gave
you
them
need to know
6.
is Rodgers threw 3 in his entire career, and Stafford threw 3 in 3 straight weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I just don't know how this is. How everybody's just so ready to put this guy on their shoulders and champion him into like next year, because I wouldn't feel the same way.
But you also have to think, though, for the first 8 weeks, they championed him, put him on their shoulder, and they were 7-1.
Was this close to doing that? A 7-1 against who, though? I mean, the only good
Right.
win is the Colts and Tampa, but the Colts weren't
Tampa
really.
was a great win.
Yeah, Colts didn't really discover who they were yet. Let's be real. So week 2, I don't even know if you can count that the same way as you would if you beat the Colts now. But
You have to think, though, is there a potential that all of this could be a blessing? Right? You have an 8-week sample size of an offense that gets figured out in week 9, right? Opposed to remember in 2018 when they lost that Lions game, I think was a little telling in week 12, and then by week 15 in Chicago, everybody had known how to beat the Rams. There were just a couple of teams throughout the way that weren't able to. But there was a blueprint. There was a clear blueprint on how to load the box, on how to blitz the A-gap, get to Goff immediately, right? All these different variables, stop the run game, play gap and a half to stop Gurley, stop the outside zone scheme. You read every article on it. It was incredibly frustrating. But because there's a script that's out right now, I think that there's a fair amount of optimism that if they can figure out the run game, they can bolster up some of their personnel up front. If they can scheme a better run game, which I don't think that Kevin Carberry's done a great job of doing, but also taking into consideration Darrell Henderson's numbers after contact, before contact. He hasn't been great this season. He's also been banged up. So maybe Sony Michel, you talked about the Tampa Bay game, Nick, for a second. Sony Michel, 20 carries in that game, and they controlled the clock. You might get a little bit of that throughout the next 3 weeks, and an offense that's more heavily focused on a scheme that caters Sony Michel and having Matthew Stafford under the center and not turning the ball over. So I don't know. What are your thoughts there? Any optimism?
I mean, I actually think Odell is going to pop off in the next couple weeks. I foresee that. I want to see like the Odell jet sweeps, get him back there returning punts. Completely mix it up. I want to see him getting the ball a lot. Cooper Kupp obviously is going to be doubled. Like if not obviously and not all the time, but I want to see a lot of familiarity between Stafford and him, because I think that could be an amazing pairing. And if you kind of, I don't know about riding Sony Michel. I think it's time
Is there another guy? Is there another CJ Anderson that's lurking?
No. I just mean they're probably going to beat teams the way that only they can, which is just like throw it a lot. So I'm like, I don't think either of those two running backs are going to get a lot of love.
So in your opinion, it's more of a Band-Aid. This is a Band-Aid approach to the next 3 weeks, just to get you through till you could figure out some of the problems offensively.
Yeah, and then hopefully bring in somebody.
Yeah, but who? I know. I was thinking the same thing. Todd Gurley's the first name that will.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. 3-0 right here, baby. Todd Gurley
hasn't played the whole year. I mean,
I don't care. Marshawn Lynch him.
Yeah, I'd take Marshawn Lynch too.
No, I mean like bring him back like the Raiders did, and or Seahawks. Was it the Seahawks?
Did. Yeah, it was the Seahawks. You go Gurley, you go Frank Gore, Chris Thompson.
Frank Gore's got a fight to prep for.
If Frank Gore's ready for a fight, he's ready to carry the ball. he's ready to get me 3.5 yards of carry if he's ready to fight. Come on, I'm bringing.
But that's also like I feel like that's like a desperation play,
sure,
and like
sure.
that's like using self-destruct in Pokemon.
It's like the Seahawks being in win now mode, bringing in Adrian Peterson. Like, just bringing in another. The Seahawks are sad, and if we ever resemble that franchise one day, oh, you're going to see a very, very awful side of me, one you've already seen that's worse than this. But seriously, imagine that star power. You're bringing it in 6 years after the window closes just to keep relevancy. I think that's sad.
Here's the thing about the Seahawks, though. Like, over the last 10 years, they've won the division, I think, like upwards of 70%.
Yeah, I know.
So, like, for the point
last year.
Yeah, for them to be here now is totally understandable. We won the division like twice, like in the last couple of years. Like, I'm not ready to be there yet. This Rams team isn't, but we're acting like we're going to be there very soon. and get none of the glory from it, just
Mhm.
based on how the future looks and where our team is at right now.
Yeah, but you talked about though in this Jacksonville game how it's a good opportunity to like mix some stuff up. You see OBJ potentially returning some punts. Like I saw some in the Packers game. I wanted to see them mix up the passing game a little bit. It looked like there were some moments in that game where there was actually some offense that featured crossers over the middle, which McVay's offense tends to do. But many of them were errant throws by Stafford. Right? I don't know the purpose of that game plan to keep everybody underneath would be to let your receivers kind of work after the catch. And when you have three receivers on the roster that are more than willing to do that, I think you're putting your offense in a good spot. But to force more mismatches and to force defenders to cover the entire field, maybe you're rotating Cooper Kupp into the backfield. Maybe you feature a two-back set with Michelle and Darrell Henderson. Maybe you let Kendall Blanton get some of those tight end 2 reps and mix in 12 personnel when you're in your own territory, just to get chunks, to put yourself in third and manageable, put yourself in 3rd and 3. You don't have to take a shot on 2nd and 9. That's the thing that drives me so crazy about this offense. They're on their own 19, 2nd and 9. McVay's like, oh, yeah, let me dial up the play chart. Oh, Van Jefferson down for 65 yards on a streak. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's go with that. Send it through the headset.
And that's also this Rams team has a really bad problem of keeping momentum, which is something I thought the other last year's team did much better. Like they were able to at least get the first couple of first downs so they could get momentum, so they could get the big play. When you're not getting that first down and the defense has to come right back on the field, and the next play, now all of a sudden you're down 7-0. Like you're not, they are panicking so early. It's like when it's like losing an early bet, like on like a Monday bet, and then like immediately Tuesday doubling down, Wednesday doubling down, and just kind of just taking it. And all of a sudden you're down like huge, and you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
It's because you're not putting, you're not doing okay, I'm just going to do my plan the whole way through. You're losing focus, and sometimes you have to, but like going for it on like 4th and 1 on your own 28, and then like 2 times in the 4th quarter you got 2 4th downs, a much better field position with less distance, and you're not going for it. It just doesn't really make sense.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like, what do you want to point the blame on Sean McVay, or do you want to point the blame on the fact that he's saying that it's the fact that they don't have the personnel to be able to run the ball? And the reason why they're calling this type of game plan is because they don't feel confident in Darrell Henderson, right? They don't feel confident to be able to stick to the run game, to be able to move the ball efficiently in that form, which is why, combined with the fact that McVay thinks Stafford is such an upgrade over Goff, which is why they're in empty sets. They're 5 wide. They're trying to push the ball, trying to take shots. It's the same thing over.
It was really funny watching the game with you this week because it was just like, it was like 3rd down, or no, it was like 2nd down. And you're like, empty set? What is he doing? Because they were all the receivers. And then it was a sack, of course.
Well, what was funny too? It was like 2nd and 8, empty set. And then like, let's rewind it and then just watch them all sprint straight down the field.
Yeah.
Like, what's the purpose? What's the purpose? It's an arm punt, as they called it. I don't know. Sean McVay, during the most recent Coach McVay podcast, I think it's debatable in its own that he should even be on a podcast.
No, I don't think so.
No, you think that's fine? Is Bill Belichick on any podcasts?
I know Ben.
How about Kyle Shanahan?
I know Ben Roethlisberger used to like call. I think he still does. Like calls into like local Pittsburgh radio.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and would like answer questions and stuff, and would like talk about the team. So I don't think that's bad. He can have his own podcast. I don't listen to it. Like I don't need to be mad going to work listening to Sean McVay, because that's exactly how I would be.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, he was talking about on the podcast. I just wanted to get your opinion. I thought you'd be like, no, he shouldn't have a podcast, but
no, everybody deserves downtime. He probably enjoys it because he's a freaking lunatic and like has to be thinking about the game all the time.
Yeah, he can't unplug himself. But he did discuss how he wants to better organize the 48-man game day active roster and utilize what's left on the roster. They're getting back Ben Skronik this week. Odell Beckham Jr. is going to play. So I think they have plenty of health at receiver.
Is Henderson playing and they're just like, just demoted him?
Henderson's listed as questionable. Buddy Howell was moved to IR. So I think they're only going to carry 2 active running backs. I don't even think they have a third back that they can keep active. So they'll probably only keep 2 running backs active on game day. And then I don't know if they're going to bring in somebody up from the practice squad. I think there's a name that I don't know that's on the practice squad that they may activate. But just, you're kind of in scary territory. The injury situation's odd. The fact that they're still paying Todd Gurley $8 million of dead money is odd. Cam Akers.
Bring him in. You're paying the man anyway. You might as well bring him in.
You might as well give him another.
Do they have to pay him if he comes in?
What do you mean? Yeah, of course.
Right.
I think.
Well, he wouldn't come in otherwise. He'd be like, you're paying me either way.
Just roll it into the dead money. Just give him a fully incentive-based contract that's around touchdowns. Playoff touchdowns, $500K. I don't know. Who knows?
That would be sick.
Well, I mean, you've seen the Cam Newton reunion.
Paying out of Les Need's pocket.
You saw the Cam Newton reunion work for one whole week, and it stopped working. So I don't know. I mean, I would just like to, I would just like to see him in the new threads. Kind of back into his stadium that he was supposed to be in. A situation that I think they just handled completely wrong. But at the same time, the guy's not even in the league right now. The contract situation.
You could have at least kept him on the team as like a third string back and keep him in that running back.
You still could. Well, that's the thing. You still could have drafted Akers, and then you could have waited another year.
Like how Elliott is behind Pollard right now. Like I don't think that's like both of those guys are to be scared, truly. So I don't think.
Well, how about this? How about this too? Tavon Austin for Jacksonville. How about us sitting there watching that game? They were down 14-0. Tavon Austin leaping catch in the back of the end zone.
He's going to get a freaking touchdown, the punt return against us, isn't he?
Punt return. Yep. Tavon Austin, anytime scorer, is probably going to be like plus 1,500. Man, if you don't put $20 on that, you're nuts. Have to, right? Absolutely have to. Yeah, I think there's with Stafford right in this Rams offense. I think as we're transitioning, we'll talk about the defense in a second, and then we'll preview Jacksonville real quick. But I just think there's a lack of consistency with the guy, right? I think that when you promise that you're going to bring in somebody at such high caliber, you have to be durable enough to make it throughout the season, right? Nobody's 100% at this point in the season. He's somebody who's going to deny that he's hurt, but you got to be able to stay on the field. We need you on the field. John Wolford can't play. But also, didn't you know what you were signing up for? Take into consideration that you wanted to be a pass-happy, explosive play offense. You have to be able to eventually change that game plan. If they didn't blitz a ton, they still weren't able to generate enough pressure to get home. That's another thing. But counter the pressure by moving the pocket and scheming a solid run game. And that's why you traded for him. And I think we're all just tired of hearing excuses right now. So it's supposed to be this Green Bay game, the San Francisco game, the Tennessee game. Those are all supposed to be games that you bring him in and he's the difference maker in that game, no matter what, right? That's what you sold us. And he's just not that good right now with the current bill that Sean McVay is handing Matthew Stafford. So there's that. When you transition over to the defense, anything else you want to mix in there?
Not really. I feel like I've said my piece with how I think Matthew Stafford is as a quarterback time and time again. Cool. Let's move on. I was about to go into something else about him.
I don't know, but I mean,
there's no point because he's not. I just don't think he's the guy that's going to get you over the edge there.
I'm tending to agree with you here. The defense. I want to talk about the defense for a second because I'm so freaking tired of seeing fire Raheem Morris.
No, I think he's actually doing a good job with
that. You got nothing. You're not going to actually analyze the defense whatsoever. You're just going to say fire Raheem Morris because Jalen Ramsey isn't in the perfect position every single play. Get out of here. Come on. The Packers, they designed a game plan to protect Aaron Rodgers and to protect his toe. They figured out that they can beat the Rams' prolific pass rush, Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, with being able to get the ball out quick, which is exactly what Jimmy G and the San Francisco 49ers did to us. 3 quarterback hits, 0 sacks for those 3 guys, as well as Jalen Ramsey. They were able to keep the ball away from him. 24 of 28 of Aaron Rodgers' completions were on throws that didn't travel more than 10 yards. So Rodgers threw the ball 10 plus yards, 15 times total. He only completed 4 of those passes, right? So Rodgers, one of the best deep ball throwers in the game, you only allowed 4 of those passes did be complete.
Can I just say something that's a little funny to me, and I'm kind of thinking about it now?
Yeah, is it me?
No, I think if you look at the blueprint of how to beat this Rams team, and you put this Rams team up against last year's Rams team, the 2020 Rams, I think last year's team wins because that's exactly what they did. They would get the ball out fast. They would take up a lot of time on the clock on the drives.
Yep.
And they had a defense that could force turnovers.
You know what? Bash Jared Goff all you want. He was patient, right? And I felt like he did a decent job of figuring out mismatches in low and then low to mid levels of the field, right? Anything deep, right? I think it had to be kind of schemed perfectly. Somebody kind of had to break free. A safety had to kind of carry over. Goff had to see it all the way through, right? But I feel like he was good at dissecting, the low, mid parts of the field. Tyler Higbee, finding Cooper Kupp on crossers. He was always extremely accurate. There was a play, I think there was 2 third downs. One of them was to Beckham that I think he threw in front of him. Beckham had to come back, which is when he hurt his back. And then another one was on a crosser with Beckham, was just like a 3-yard drag route across the middle. And he threw it behind him, and Beckham had to reach behind him and try to catch it. Goff was perfect with those throws, right? So you're talking about these little.
There's another one against Higbee.
Yeah, Higbee is like a complete non-factor in this offense too. And I've watched back so many plays, watched back the tape of the Packers game, and he's just open on the other side of the field. There's no focus on Tyler Higbee because Matthew Stafford wants to try and push the ball, so he's not looking at anything underneath the way that he should be. So I just think it's so hard, and I'm not going to compare the two, but I just feel like when it comes to defenders, like Aaron Rodgers is able to create mismatches. He saw so many mismatches in Dante Dion and Nick Scott, Troy Reader, Taylor Rapp, right? And then in honesty, they lack size in the middle of the field, right? So teams are going to start to exploit that in the run game. Teams are going to start getting in a lot of third and manageables as we've seen over the last 3 weeks. And then they're able to convert, right? It's A.J. Dillon. It's a quick pass play to Devontae Adams. It's Deebo Samuel on a toss sweep, like whatever it was, it's going to beat us. So I think you need to find a new formula to just be able to jumpstart this group, which is what I could imagine they're going to start working on. I saw some news come out today that Terrell Burgess is working with the defensive backs coach. I think they're going to try to rotate a couple of defensive backs in there just to give it a new look, see if they can come up with something that's a little bit more detailed and can, take the pressure off of Jalen Ramsey having to move around the field and just kind of let him focus on his role. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to look like, but it's coming. It's coming. For right now, it feels like it's a slow death with the Rams' defense, right?
Yeah.
And it's because they're not able to generate any turnovers. And I think they've generated 15 turnovers on the year, but I talk about as frequently as some of the top teams in the league. The Bills generated 25 so far this year. The Patriots are at 25. So they're allowing big plays because teams know that forcing their linebackers and defensive backs to make tackles is how you beat them. Yards after the catch, toss sweeps, carries up the middle. You can just kind of beat them with these little dink and dunk plays that will eventually turn into explosive plays.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the defense is easier to fix for the reason that, this is going to be a really good game, I think, in terms of Jacksonville, just like the Houston game, where you're going to be able to get pressure. So your pass rushers are going to be fine with what they have in front of them. But at the same time, they just got to figure out a way for it all to come together. And it just hasn't yet.
If they're up there at that podium and they lose to Jacksonville, I think that's they missed the playoffs kind of vibes.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely going to be the case. 7-5, you're on your way. San Francisco is probably going to pick up another win this week. With all that being said, I think the defense is in a really good spot. This is a team, we'll talk about it as we preview Jacksonville, but they could make minor adjustments. Like you could load the box to take away some of those low spots of the field in that passing game, right? As well as kind of pressing their defenders. So you could press a defensive back, for example, and a receiver is not going to get open in 2.5 seconds if the coverage isn't 5 to 7 yards off, right? It's the reason why they're 5-7 yards off. They can get these crosser routes. They get these quick slants. And it's easy yards to pick up. But if you're pressing, you're giving your pass rush another half second to get home, there's a really good opportunity. And I think the ability of them to be able to rotate some defensive backs, you'll get some coverage sacks. If you're in press man, if you're really kind of heavily focused on taking away that short to middle spot of the field, People aren't going to beat the Rams deep, right? If you're taking away that stuff. So we shall see.
Yeah. I mean, I'm truly not worried about this game.
No.
After
What about special teams? Because it doesn't matter who they play, they can make a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, I just think the defense is going to be able to handle Jacksonville. I'm not really even watching this game for the offense. I hope they can just figure it out. You know what I mean? Because this is playing a second-rate team. You should be able to figure out some chemistry and sew some bows and feel better about yourself. But the defense won't allow this Jacksonville team to drive us far.
No.
Drive themselves far.
I agree.
It's just special teams. I don't even want to talk about them. If more mistakes are made from them, Dean won't have any hair left.
I have plenty of hair, but it makes me want to pull my hair out.
I have plenty of hair.
Sony Michel returning kicks. I actually like that. As soon as it happened, as soon as he returned his first kickoff, it's like, wow, I really like that. And then 5 returns later, an average of 23.5 yards per return. Extremely happy with the decision that they made, opposed to JJ Koski. Look, no personal shots or anything, like none. Just by looking at the picture of the guy, he just doesn't look like a punt returner. He does not look. He does not look like somebody who you can trust to put both arms around the ball and get through a pile of wild defenders. I'm sorry. Do you disagree?
No, I not at all. But that's just like, that's just a really funny take. Dean had a "That's So Raven" moment. We're watching the game. He's like, well, "Who is that? Who is that? Koski?" The room freezes. The camera turns, and we go into Dean's inner eye, and he sees him fumble the ball because right before he fumbled, Dean was like, "He's gonna fumble this fucking ball," and then boom, he fumbled it. Sorry for cursing, but it was. Like I was so upset, but it was very funny as well.
Well, so that's exactly what happened. It's like you just have a feeling like in big moments, and this is actually to the fault of our dad, who trained us in big moments. When you see a rookie returner back to return a punt when you're down like 9 points in the fourth quarter with 8 minutes left, it's a guaranteed fumble. And it's exactly what happened. And I had that feeling come over me, and I was with my 2 brother-in-laws, and I was with you as well, and I was trying not to embarrass myself, but I said, he is going to effing fumble. And what happened? Cough. Fumble. So, I mean, OBJ, he was actually on that podcast that OBJ was, or that Sean McVay is on, the Coach McVay show. He noted that OBJ was actually designated to make some of those late game returns as a boost for the Rams special team unit, but the back injury just forced JJ Koski into that role. Who knows what happened to Cooper Kupp?
Oh, wow. So that's actually honestly here now. And like, I know this is going to sound like I'm bashing them, but that is another turnover that you can blame on Matthew Stafford.
How?
Because he's the guy who made Beckham turn his back, threw the ball behind him to try to make that catch.
Oh, that's a sicko take.
That is the third Matthew Stafford turnover of that game.
No, I won't allow that. I also think that the first turnover, the blindside sack, I mean, that was Whitworth's 4th pressure on the whole year. I mean, maybe 3rd. Like that doesn't usually happen. But again, you have to feel the pressure. I agree with you, but I'm not letting you give that turnover to him. I won't let you do that.
I'm just saying he's somewhat responsible.
Don't you put that evil over me. No. But Johnny Hecker's another one. Regressing. Would you agree that he's regressing?
Yeah, and then for them to be playing our punter, right? Isn't Green Bay's punter the guy that we had in preseason?
Yep.
That's the guy. Like I'm watching hhim. I'm like, why do we have Hecker, who is just abysmal, and we gave away this guy? And look at him starting on the Packers. Like, it was just lunacy.
I think here's my take. I actually think the Goff trade, the way they handled Cooks, the way they handled Gurley, Brockers.
Boy,
Middleton.
You think Hecker's like a locker room guy?
He was. I think all the disastrous contracts that they handed out, and I think the relationships that they crumbled along the way. I think there was another chance at potentially affecting chemistry if you were to remove Johnny Hecker from your roster. And I think they thought to themselves, we can't afford to make another move that's going to affect chemistry. And let's just keep him here and restructure his deal, and he'll be fine. And it was so not the case.
Yeah,
Not the case. Did I have to get up? Do you remember me getting up after one of his 41-yard punts and leaving the room?
I don't actually.
No, because I did. I left the room and I went onto the balcony to get fresh air because if I see another 41-yard punt, I'm going to freaking pull all my hairs out of my head.
Yeah.
Absolutely frustrating. I mean, you had the better guy and you let him go. So what's the purpose? And he's out punting you in prime time. So just all right, the Jags. Jags at Rams. Trevor Lawrence, 9 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 72.3 rating, 58% completion percentage, 6.0 yards per attempt, has been sacked a total of 20 times this year. What are your thoughts on Trevor Lawrence? I know you said to me earlier, I think when we were watching the game this past Sunday, you were like, I don't know about him.
I think he's okay. It's kind of similar to I mean, I hate to say it, but when you had to Goff, it's just like I don't think this guy really is bad. I think he's surrounded by a mediocre football team. I think both of their head coaches are really not good and don't really understand NFL football that well. Urban Meyer, I don't know what that guy's doing behind the scenes. It's just, it's a shame to see this young up and coming guy in Trevor Lawrence be in a horrible organization like the Jags.
Yeah.
Because they just can never get anything right. So I hope that's the case, and they and they lose to us. I mean, this is a team that beat the Bills.
Yeah, it was 9-5 or 9-6. It was like a scoregami or something like that.
9-6.
9-6. Jacksonville, though, their top 3 receivers, Marvin Jones Jr., Laviska Shenault Jr., and Dan Arnold, have a total of roughly 1,300 yards and 3 touchdowns on the whole year combined. But Marvin Jones Jr. and Shenault and Treadwell is actually a big body, and Carlos Hyde and Dan Arnold and Tavon Austin and James O'Shaughnessy. Like they're not going to hesitate throwing the ball whatsoever. I mean, you're going to see Trevor Lawrence throw the ball upwards of 40, 45 times. They're going to be extremely aggressive. They're not afraid to make any mistakes. He's going to be an empty. They're going to take shots. It's a fun game to get back on track.
Yeah, see, I also regardless of what I just said about Urban Meyer, the one thing I think he is doing right is that he's allowing Trevor Lawrence to just kind of have his play. You're going to be the one who's really in control of this offense and just kind of figure it out and get comfortable. And they're kind of treating this whole year that way, which I think is fine.
Yeah. I think it's so lazy on Urban Meyer though, right? You got it. It's kind of it's like the Sean McVay thing. I mean, you have a quarterback that's pro ready immediately from the draft. The whole rest of their draft was questionable. Their GM is questionable.
Yeah, I don't think he's a bust at all.
No, he's not. He's definitely not. Or I guess you don't know definite for sure, but at the same time, I mean, you're putting him in empty. You're letting him dissect plays. You're letting him read everything post snap. You're letting him create the mismatches. Those are all things. He's throwing receivers open. It's an extremely difficult position for a quarterback to succeed right now. Not to mention you mix in things like pressure and the offensive line, how unstable they've been. They're in a really, really tough position. But the Jags, what they could do, you could mimic the game plan that Tennessee or San Francisco just did offensively. James Robinson's averaging 5 yards a carry. Is he on your fantasy team, James Robinson? He is. Yeah, he's a solid player, but they've never given him 20 yards a carry. Never given him 20 carries in a game. In a single game, he's never exceeded 20 carries. So they don't necessarily have the personnel up front or the brain power on that coaching staff, Nick, as you alluded to scheme up anything that's really effective, I think, in terms of the run game. But we've seen crazier things happen before. And I feel like a mix of James Robinson and Carlos Hyde should be somewhat effective. And then you take into consideration that Jacksonville's passing game, it's not prolific, but they can make some stuff happen. They have a couple of decent tight ends. A couple of Marvin Jones Jr. had a really nice one-handed catch last weekend. And I saw Jacksonville, this part just killed me, ripped me apart. I saw Jacksonville run a toss sweep to James Robinson on a 3rd and 3 in the third quarter of the game against Atlanta. And it made me sick to my stomach because that's what we allow. We let teams get in third and manageable, run a toss sweep, and run it down our throat for 7 yards. So I think they're going to put up a fight. I don't think there's any doubt that Jacksonville pitches a decent game. I think it's, you know what, Nick? I think it's the largest spread throughout the entire league on
Not
Sunday.
only is it the largest spread, but 85% of the money is on the Rams minus 13.
Oh, God. Terrifying. Terrifying. Well, I mean, the offense has to get their shit fixed. I mean, they're going to be an aggressive defense, and they're not afraid to make any mistakes. So they're going to be blitzing a ton. I watched them blitz a ton in the first half of that game. Like early on that first series, it was like all hands on Matt Ryan. Let's bring him to the ground. And then, they're trying to jump routes, everything that you could possibly think a team that isn't good enough is trying to do. They're trying to cheat a little bit, which then leaves them in vulnerable spots. And, they have the talent. I think they have the speed on defense to be tough on the defensive side of the ball, to be tough enough, generate the pressure, get sacks on Stafford. I think he'll take a couple of them, but they make mistakes. They do. I mean, Tyson Campbell had a really nice interception on Matt Ryan last week. But I mean, outside of that, they've generated 5 turnovers on the entire year, 6 turnovers on the entire year. That's a league low. So,
do you think Matthew Stafford throws an interception?
Dude, I'm telling you, if he throws another pick six, I'll hand you a $100 bill in this game, because that's how sure I am that he's not going to do it again.
This week, but not next week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The week after that, I'm not giving you any money.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm 100% positive he's not going to throw a pick six this week.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not.
6 turn. What we got to need a wager. What do you do if he doesn't?
If he doesn't throw a pick six, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll give you like $10.
Was there anything that our brother-in-law had I think we promised?
Oh yeah. Aaron Rodgers is my biological father, and Matthew Stafford's biological father. Forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me. So if he's been listening to this freaking podcast, he's probably like, "Oh, I did it. I got him to say it." He's a Packers fan. He deserves it though, because I'm over here thinking I'm confident in this Rams team, and I'm making bets. He's going to do a hilariously funny TikTok dance if he lost, which I would have loved to post to my Instagram, but Rams couldn't win for me. So I had to say horrible things like that.
Yeah, but we got the new family this year, and I'm extraordinarily blessed to have that. But like, I'm going back to the roots tomorrow. Me and Dad are watching the game together. That's it. The two of us in a room, isolated, with the temperature turned down. It'll be great. It'll be great.
Yeah, I'll be watching here.
Maybe some whiskey.
Good luck getting him drinking whiskey at 1 o'clock.
120. I'll tell you the story real quick. Got him 125 proof whiskey one year for his birthday. We almost never saw him again. Almost never saw him again. But he's back. So we're going to get a win tomorrow. Guaranteeing. Rams Brothers guarantee.
Do you want to hop into Nick's picks? We're doing something different this week.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. All odds are provided by MyBookie. MyBookie.ag, all lines, getting them all right from there. MyBookie.ag. Use promo code LAFB. Doubles your money when you make your first deposit. Got to use it. Got to love it. Let's roll into Nick's picks. So I listened a lot to Bill Simmons, Dean. I think he's like the podcast guru guy. I don't know how other people feel about him. Do you listen to him ever? Like, what's your take?
So when I first started listening to podcasts, he was the first podcast that I listened to. So
yeah, I just think he does.
Course, I think he's great, but as a podcaster myself, don't listen to a ton of podcasts. But if there were some that I would listen to, he would be in that rotation.
All right. Well, what they've been doing,
he's great at what he does.
It's him and Schroeder, right? Peter. Yeah. They do the picks together.
Traeger,
yeah. Peter Schrager. They do the picks, and week by week, I'm always coming in with like facts and knowledge, and I'm providing my take and why I'm picking this team. And they kind of just like talk it out. This is the first week where Simmons brought actual like research in. They usually just go through them and talk it out. And for now, it's the Rams that's like always the pick that holds me back, because I've taken them 3 weeks in a row, and three weeks in a row I've been 2-3. So I've been down like 1 unit, and if the Rams would win, then we would have been up that unit, right?
Sure.
But that's just simply not the case. So I think we're going to switch it up, and we're going to talk out some of these bets. The first bet I really like is I love +7.5 Detroit Lions at home against the Vikings.
See, I like a Rams, Eagles, Vikings parlay.
Okay, one of the things that I have, the only thing I have is Rams, Eagles, Colts parlay.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about taking the Lions to cover this week.
Yeah, no, I think this Lions team's actually shockingly good against the spread. They cover a lot because they lose close, but they always lose. So that Giants money line at plus 260, I mean, obviously it's tempting. It's tempting every week. Last week, it was so close to winning a buttload of money, but I only won a little bit because of the Giants or Lions, excuse me. And now once again we're faced with the Lions team looking at a plus 260 money line, but I think plus 7.5 is good enough to just ride that into
plus 260 is too much.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's you got to make it that high. I feel like the game's going to be closer than plus 260.
Should we just do 2 picks? One of them is money line, and one of them is plus 7.5.
I can't. I'll take the Lions to cover, but I won't take the money line.
Oh, how about this? Ride this freaking under, because remember that stat I gave you last week? This is a divisional game after week 10, under 46.5.
That's a good bet.
Lions plus 7, under 46.5. That's 2 right there. That's 2 next picks. The third one is Rams, Colts, Eagles money line. Rams play the Jags. Eagles play the Jets. Colts play the Texans. It's not even about those 3 teams that I want to win. It's about those other 3 teams not being able to win.
Fair. So, fun fact about the Eagles and the Jets. The Jets have never beaten the Eagles. Ever. In the history of football. The Eagles are 11-0 against the Jets. All time. So, you look a little scared that I just said that.
Is that facts?
It's facts.
I feel like that's just bound.
I can't imagine the Eagles lose 2 straight games to the 2 New York teams.
Yeah.
That would be the best thing that ever happened around here.
I just don't. Oh, that actually scares me.
Scares you?
Whatever. Shouldn't. I'm going to pretend like I didn't hear that. And then how about we just go with -3 Bengals over the Chargers?
Sure. I like that.
Can we just talk ourselves into that?
Bengals played a hell of a game last week.
Bengals are just destroying teams, and everybody wants to see the Bengals do well because it's just Joe Burrow and this funky team. They have these really cool uniforms. I'm not giving this much thought this week. I mean, clearly I am running on a gun here. But watch, this is going to be the week that we go 5-0. I'm going Bengals -3 as the last hammer. It's the one I like most. We got all quick picks this week. Let's run them back. Lions plus 7.5, under 46 in Minnesota Lions game. Then we got the Eagles, Rams, and the Colts in one parlay to make that even money. And then we have the Bengals -3 over the Chargers. So only 4 this week. Can't go 5-0 when you only have 4 bets.
I would go all of them. I don't see any hesitancy. And the last 3 weeks have been so insane. The whole month of November has been insane in general.
Maybe
we get some honesty this week.
The 5th play is parlaying all of those 4.
Jesus. Cousin Sal would disagree.
Well, that's how we're riding it.
Cool. I like it. Short and sweet. Well, what else do we have to say as we ride into this Saturday night?
The Beatles documentary on Disney Plus is amazing. If you haven't watched that, go watch that.
Anything else that's good?
No.
Shang-Chi?
Oh, Shang-Chi was good.
Shang-Chi?
Yeah.
What do I know? All right, cool. All I do is care about this freaking team. I need more hobbies. Anybody hobbies and want to introduce me to a new hobby? You want to invite me to come play golf? Really anything. I'm in. Let me know.
Let's just watch this team win tomorrow.
I'm going to be eventually the and I love you, man, where I'm looking online for some friends to keep me occupied outside of football. That's going to be me.
Let's just win. How about that?
Yeah, let's win. And then I don't have to do any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good. And then I don't have to get on your nerves either, or my wife's.
But punch. All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
So when you do that noise, the episode's over. Cue the King K. Rool music.
It's probably already been playing.
Cool. We need a dub. Go Rams.
Go Rams, guys.
Horns up.